Today we're going to talk about pretty much my favorite country in all of Europe, which is Austria. If I could be there right now, I would. If I could figure out a way to get a passport for Austria, I would. It's a really fabulous destination and one over my 17 years here that has really grown on me because the first time I went, Vienna just didn't click for me. So it took a few visits to really dig down and find the right people and the right places to make it really cemented in my mind as the perfect destination. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I did like a picture heavy PowerPoint just to talk about a few things. Use the chat function if you want me to elaborate on anything, and then we'll have time at the end for questions. And really what I'm going to share is just how to make Austria work for your clients. So here's a little picture to start us off. This is the lookout over Innsbruck. So these are the kind of views a lot of Austria has. It's just a really clean and beautiful destination. Just to recap, Exeter covers everything like Germany and points east. So Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland over here, and everything east to Central Asia. Austria sits right here. We can look right here in the heart of Europe. So I'll talk a little bit later about what connects well, but it connects to Germany. Over here, it connects to Switzerland. Down here, it connects to Slovenia, Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, all very accessible from Austria as a base. And Austrian Airlines is offering, they're starting back up their nonstop flights. So far, only 3, I think, a week from the US. The Vienna airport has the capabilities to do relatively instant COVID tests. You get a result in 3 hours. It's 190 euros right now, and you do have to schedule an appointment. We don't know when Austria will be open yet or what the parameters will be, but I have some kind of a feeling that some kind of health certificate or COVID result is going to be required at some point. And just knowing that Vienna Airport's already set up for that is nice to know. So Austria for us, for a lot of our guests, starts with Vienna. This is a picture of one of my favorite museums there called Kunsthistorisches, or Fine Arts, easier to say in English. I want to tell you what was new in 2020. It's still kind of here, but in a different form. So this was the 250th year of Beethoven, and there were a lot of special exhibitions planned throughout Austria, but mostly in Vienna, about Beethoven. Some of those are being just redone for next year. So if you have super music lover guests that are sad that they're missing out, there's still the possibility next year. This year was also a super big deal because it was the 100-year anniversary of the Salzburg Music Festival. They did decide that the music festival will have, it will perform this year in a really abbreviated season and with no opera. So all of this year's like showstopper opera performances are being pushed to next year. So I had some bookings for the music festival this year, and we were able to get refunds on all of their tickets, and they're back in the lottery for next year. So if you have music lovers, next year is going to include all of the really great opera performances that this year was supposed to have. And really what we've spent so many years developing at Exeter, and that I was really excited to like put in full motion this year, was all of our local interactions. In Austria, it's really just an end result of going there a lot and meeting people and finding the right people that can talk in a really engaging way to American travelers. And you can see over here on the bottom left, that's one of our food experts in Vienna. She invites people into her apartment to do cooking classes or takes people on food safaris. The woman in the center, she's one of the family-owned vintners in the Wachau Valley, and she has a little cookbook, and she does special things when we have wine tasting with kids. So again, you know, just like a really special person to know. And then bottom right, that is a very elegant lady there who dresses way better than I could ever hope to, is the wife of one of our guides in Vienna. And her family dates back to the Hungarian aristocracy, and she is a shopper extraordinaire. So if you have people going and they're like, I really don't dig museums, or I don't want to spend all my time in museums, she knows all the cool places, like not just going to like a chain store, but like really cool local boutiques. And she takes our guests on shopping tours completely catered to the guest and their interests. So like teenagers finding cool funky things to, you know, someone of a more mature age looking for really wonderful handmade local items. She's really great with that. So Vienna is generally the place that everybody thinks of first for Austria, unless you're like me and you're a Sound of Music lover, and then Salzburg is the top of your list. But really, Vienna, it's the capital of the country. It took me a while to really kind of get the vibe there, because a first-time visitor, especially one that might have only spent a day or so there, it comes off as very cold and not very welcoming. There are some great options here, though, that are kind of like the standard things we often include in programs. Belvedere Palace is one of them. It is not about a palace. It is about the world's best collection of Klimt. Spanish Riding School, of course, is one of the quintessential experiences in Vienna, and that's the Lipizzaner Stallions. And we have a number of special private experiences we can do there. Schönbrunn Palace, if your people love a palace and they just want to see opulent staterooms, that's the place to do it. In St. Stephen's Cathedral, with its really cool tiled roof, that's right in the center of the pedestrian district. And that's another place where we can do some cool things, especially with teenagers, because if you see like this little parapet here, we can take guests up to that. So they're like alone on the roof line. You can't fall over. It's a nice high banister kind of thing there, but it's a really cool private experience to go to the rooftop and get like a bird's eye view of central Vienna. So I think culinary is like a huge deal for a lot of luxury travelers right now, and especially if you are getting travelers that skew a bit younger, because everybody wants something more than just checking off museums on the list. And we have spent a lot of time to find the right people to introduce guests both to markets and to small, like independent food purveyors in Vienna and Linz, and even in Salzburg as well. So this could be as simple as like a 3-hour walking tour with a private food expert who's taking them to little out of the way places like a historic bread maker or this really cool cheesemonger. It could be baking lessons in the food expert's home. And for those that have families traveling or people over Christmas, she does a really cool thing that's a tasting tour of one of the Christmas markets, followed by baking traditional Austrian Christmas cookies in her apartment, which is so cool and such a nice takeaway thing and hands-on thing for families. And really, if you have families traveling with teenagers, you know, teenagers are so difficult because nothing is cool for them, but somehow eating is still cool. So this is something that works for all age groups. And, you know, when I first started at Exeter back in 2003, I could pigeonhole all of our clients into like 55 plus, well-educated, affluent, and there were 0 kids traveling. And now I think, especially in this luxury and upscale kind of realm, people really want to experience things with their kids and have their kids have these like really amazing international kind of experiences. And Vienna is great for that, and really for all ages. The rooftop walk on St. Stephen's is the one I mentioned here. For people that are at all into horses, and I'm not into horses, but this is amazing. We can do a private tour of the stables of the Spanish Riding School. And I always time this so it's after either a morning exercise or after a performance, because then the stables are like full of life and there are grooms running around and the horses are being walked in and out. It's so cool. And you're just like in the stables. And the stable guides are very special because I've sent some little kids and they do really cool things like putting the kids on the horse scales and helping them understand how the horses get their food mixture. It's interactive and it's not boring and dry. The special early zoo for Schönbrunn is really great for kids as well. And I don't know if any of you have worked with my colleague Lori. She and her daughter tested that out this year. Schönbrunn Zoo is kind of behind Schönbrunn Palace. It's the oldest zoo in Europe. They have pandas, they have polar bears, and the early admission gets guests in an hour before the zoo opens to the public. And we tell the zookeepers in advance what the preferred animals are to see, and they are met with a golf cart and taken to those animal areas. So they get kind of a really cool behind the scenes pre-opening visit, and then they have a breakfast in the Kaiser Villa, which is really special. So even for little kids where it's hard to get them interested in things because really they just want to run around and play, this is a nice option. And then a lot of guests want to do something more active, and some of our cities are set up really well for biking and some aren't. Vienna is one where I would feel comfortable biking with my own child, so I'm very comfortable recommending that. The bike lanes are a little bit set off the street, so you're not actually biking next to a car, which for me is an extra layer of security because I don't trust my own kid doing that. And they're very wide and people stay out of them. So we can do private bike tours both in the city, and for those that want like a slight countryside experience, there's biking really in a number of places in Austria that's safe and not one to give you a heart attack before you send guests. So my favorite city also is Salzburg because I love the sound of music. I can probably quote that movie from heart. Christopher Plummer as Captain Von Trapp is like my dream date. It's a really great little city. A lot of people only spend a day there because it's like often used as a shore tour from the river cruises. However, this is a really good place to base yourself for day trips. We have a lot of people, when they think of Austria, they think of Alps, and the Alps are nowhere near Vienna. So if people want that kind of alpine outdoor hiking experience, it needs to be with at least Salzburg as a base. In the city center, a 3-hour walking tour covers the basics. If you have people that are super into Sound of Music, you need to allow 6 hours because we take them a little bit further afield. So just some of the highlights of the city center, there's Mozart's birth house, which is really interesting. The thing here on the bottom left, this is in Hellbrunn Gardens. It's the pavilion from Sound of Music where they sang 16 going on 17. Mirabelle Gardens, right in the city center, is where they sing Do Re Mi, and you can still do your own little Do Re Mi rendition on the steps if you like. But it's very compact. You can see from the picture on the top right, this is a very compact city center. It's all walkable, and in fact, it is mostly pedestrian. And again, if anybody wants, though, an outdoor experience, this is the perfect base. Day trips from here are amazing. For World War II lovers, we often get asked about Eagle's Nest. That's in the top left. It's called Berchtesgaden. This is actually in Germany, but it's about 30 minutes away from Salzburg. It's only open in the summertime because specially built buses have to take you up a hill to put you in an underground elevator to go up to the top of this. So generally mid-May through September is when it's open. But it's a great day trip, and at the base of the town of Berchtesgaden, there's a beautiful lake. So it could be a half day trip if they're just focusing on World War II and Eagle's Nest. It could be a full day trip, and we can incorporate one of the salt mines or a little boat on the lake. It's really special. The bottom left, St. Joseph's, I couldn't get a picture of their new thing that they have, but this is less than an hour outside of Salzburg. It's a place called St. Joseph's. It's a national park, and it's with gorges, G-O-R-G-E, not gorgeous. It is gorgeous, but it's a gorge. And you can walk on these pathways, and they just opened on June 11th, this new stairwell they put in called the Helix, and you can look it up on Instagram. It is amazing. I saved it to my Instagram stories. I cannot wait to get there. It's this really cool kind of interwoven staircase down into a gorge. And again, something a little bit active that makes you feel like you're just not at home. That's a great place to do it. And it's still safe and not so strenuous. Up at the top, right, Zell am See is a ski resort in the winter, and just like a beautiful little village hiking atmosphere for summertime. So a really great spot for people to do a day trip to just like see a village and have a hike or rent some mountain bikes for the day. And also not too far from here is a really great restaurant that's a countryside Michelin star restaurant. So for foodies, we can incorporate that as well. What most of our guests do when they're staying in Salzburg, though, is they take a half-day trip to the Lake District, and that's also called Salzkammergut. That can be a half day covering some cute little towns like the one you see, St. Wolfgang and St. Gilgen. It can be a full day if we include Hallstatt. It could be a full day if we include hiking. So really it's just how much time do the clients have, how much exertion do they want to give, and what the experience they want is.
Gwen, can I just pause you before you move on quickly?
Yes.
Could you spell the new feature at St. Joseph for Laura, please?
Helix, Helix. It's the Helix staircase. And I watched there was a picture of when it was being built, and my son, he's 12, he took one look at that and he's like, we are never going there. But now that it's completely built and you can see that it's got handrails, he's down with that. It's a really cool space. And, we live in Florida, and going to gorges is just not something that happens here. And it's just one of those things that you're somewhere really cool and different to be able to do that. A lot of times Americans don't have time, and as well as I do that sometimes people want to do like 10 cities in 10 days, and it's a little crazy. I'm hopeful that once people can start traveling again after COVID, that they will allot more time to have some experiences outside of city centers, because I think people are not going to be so gung-ho on staying in busy cities. And if that is the case, the countryside of Austria offers quite a lot for people. I only put 4 of my favorites here, but I could have filled page after page. Dürnstein, you see in the top left corner, that's a tiny little town along the Danube. It's a port that a lot of river cruises call at, but I like to use it as a base for people who can spend 1 or 2 nights in the Wachau Valley. This is a great place for people that, number one, love wine. It's a white wine region, and we have a wine expert there who's the grandson of one of the local vintners, and he will literally drive people into the private vineyards. They can do a hike through the vineyards. They can have a picnic in the vineyards. He's got his own little hut there that's really cool. Or he's also got his own small wooden boat. So if people don't want to go in the vineyards, but they want to taste all the wine and hear all the stories, he'll meet them at this hotel, because this is actually a hotel. It's a Relais and Chateau hotel. And he'll meet them at the boat launch and just take them on a 3-hour boat ride on the Danube doing wine tasting. So it's a nice way to be out of the city center, still close to a city, and have some really nice private services. Pieper in the top right, that is outside of the town of Graz, which is down here on the bottom. Pieper is the stud farm of the Spanish riding school, and that is actually one of the colts that will turn white. They are all born dark, either brown or black, and as they get older, they shed their dark fur and end up turning white, although some don't, and then they bring them because they're like a big deal. They're an adult that didn't turn white. But anyway, the cool thing here, if you have horse lovers, is they have in the summertime all these colts literally like frolicking in the meadow. It's like a little storybook picture. And if you have people that are obsessed with horses, to be able to just drive up into the meadows and watch these young stallions like on their hind legs kind of playing with each other, it's definitely an unusual sight and really cool to see. That can be done with Graz as a base. Graz is a town that is 2 hours south of Vienna. I include it here because Vienna is a major airport, and I know Slovenia is popular, and Slovenia has a more challenging flight schedule. Vienna can be the gateway to Slovenia, especially if you have people self-driving. Vienna to Graz, 2 hours. Graz to Lake Bled or Ljubljana, 2 hours. So they could make either one trip with a stop in Graz or overnight in Graz and maybe do Pieper. It's a wonderful place for foodies because Graz is known for its farmers markets. Incidentally, and I don't think they're having it this year, but usually in August they have this long table, and they will seat like 500 people in one giant table in the town square and serve them like all this farm to table cuisine. There are wineries here. It's also, if anybody has been to Austria and you've had anything with pumpkin seed oil, this is where it's from. It's not too far from where Arnold Schwarzenegger was born. So if anybody's like into the Terminator, it's just a really cool town, often overlooked. And then I just threw in Lech. It's on the bottom right-hand side. This is a beautiful little mountain village. It's all the way west in Austria. It's only 2 hours away from Zurich. It was cut off from civilization for almost its whole livelihood because of the mountain pass. And the German they speak here sounds different than German anywhere else in Austria or Germany or Switzerland. It's kind of an interesting accent. This is traditionally a really high-end ski resort. However, in the summer, it's fantastic for hiking, of all things, yoga in the mountains, Nordic walking. And the only reason I mention it, because I'm always thinking like, okay, how do I make this work for American clients where it's not just like I'm sending them the Lech and saying, have a good time. I have a really wonderful American hiking guide here. So she speaks American style English. She was born in America. Her dad was Austrian. She went back to Austria, fell in love with an Austrian and stayed. So she lives here with her kids and she can do a lot of outdoor activities from hiking to mountain biking with families. So again, this is like a real mountain experience. I live in Florida, which is at sea level. This is the first time I actually thought, wow, altitude sickness is a real thing, because it was actually a little bit hard to breathe for me here. But it is a beautiful destination for someone that wants to stay in the mountains. So just a little quick note on hotels. As most of you know, I don't care if we book the hotels or if you book the hotels. If we book them, we have contracted rates at all the hotels. If you're Virtuoso, the Virtuoso amenities apply. If you're Signature, Signature amenities apply. But if you have clients that are using points or they want to book some other kind of rate, it's fine. I'm just going to tell you my personal favorites, and I'm a very opinionated person. I've stayed at a lot of these hotels. There are a lot of hotels that get most things right and some things very wrong, but these are the hotels that I think get almost everything right. So if we're talking Four Seasons level, because Austria still does not have a Four Seasons, in both Vienna and Salzburg, the soccer is the closest you get. It is traditional, but with more contemporary decor now. They've both been 100% renovated. So the rooms that you see here are very representative of both hotels, very light, some traditional elements, but not that old style where once I got like a mustard yellow room and once I got a room that was the color of avocado. It's not like that anymore. It's very light and bright. And what I love most about the soccer, I love a family-run hotel. It's not part of any chain. I mean, it's part of leading, but that's just for marketing. It is family owned, family operated, and some of the people, like the doorman has been there for like 25 years, and I take gifts to the concierges because they're so wonderful, and the people stay there for their whole career, and I think that says a lot about the management of a property. These hotels are also the most expensive. So if you have guests who don't want to spend 600 euros a night for an entry-level room, in Vienna, my favorite, not quite as expensive hotel is Sanssouci. This is, they call themselves 5-star, but for me, they're 4-star boutique hotel. Elements of contemporary decor, but in a very traditional building. What I love about this hotel is its location. It is right adjacent to the museum quarter. So it is not in a pedestrian area, it is in a real neighborhood. And if you stay here during Christmas time, there's a Christmas market in the side streets right outside the front door that is truly local and not touristy at all. I like it. I think it's like 68 rooms. The staff is really on top of things. And you step out the door and you're a 10-minute walk to Hofburg, if you know that area. The metro is literally in front of your door. The museum quarter is across the street. So great location, small hotel. And in Salzburg, I can't not talk about Goldener Hirsch. It's never been my favorite hotel because I don't quite dig the furniture. But it is very local, and I even asked them, I was there in October because it just got a complete renovation. So a lot of it's been freshened up. It's got new, coverings on the chairs and new bed coverings, and they've lightened things up a bit. But I asked them, what is up with like the rag rugs? Because they have rugs that were like in my grandmother's house. And there apparently everything there is like handmade, local, and it's all very traditional. The thing I like about the Goldener Hirsch's location, the soccer in Salzburg is great if you have people that are driving themselves because it's across the river and they have a nice parking garage. The Goldener Hirsch is in Old Town, right on Goldener Gasse, which is the main shopping street. So it is a really great kind of immersive location. People that book the Goldener Hirsch have to be okay with stairs. This is a building that dates from the 1300s, and there are interior stairs here, and there's no getting around it in some of the rooms. Although if you tell us in advance, like my clients can't deal with stairs, of course we can get a room assigned that doesn't have that. But it's something to be wary of. And because it's a bunch of old buildings put together, like the last time I stayed there, I had to go up one elevator, walk across to the like little step down into another building, and then take another elevator for another floor. So it can seem a little confusing, but it's truly a beautiful historic building. So. And then I wanted just to tell you about some of my favorite properties in the countryside, because again, thinking about the future and how things are moving, I think there's an appeal to a small hotel that is, I don't want to say isolated because that's the wrong word, but feels more remote. In Dürnstein, the Schloss Dürnstein, it's the best hotel in the countryside. It does have air conditioning now in all the rooms, which is a big deal. It's Relais and Chateau. It is completely family owned and operated. The two kids that are going to take over the hotel have big plans, but the parents have not let go of control yet. So the big plans are still a little bit on hold. If you can look at like the rooms right along the front here, these are the ones we normally book. They're called Superior Plus. They have a view of the Danube and the windows open. Some of the rooms, yeah, they're interesting, but many of them, if we get the right room allocated for the guests, they have like beautiful wooden floors and very traditional furniture. It's just a matter of asking for the right room. When I was there, it was very busy, and I got a room that was yellow from top to bottom. That yellow 70s solid color carpet with the yellow bedspread, yellow towels in the bathroom. It was something else. But it's a very special place, and it puts you right along the Danube. They have bikes here that you can rent, including e-bikes for people that don't want to do hills. It's a really, really magical place. And they have their own boats as well. So I've had people that weren't interested in like a 3-hour wine tasting boat, but they just wanted to go out on the Danube, and they have a boat captain that will go down and take people out for like an hour-long cruise. In the top right-hand corner, Landhauskoller, another family-owned and operated. It's a husband-wife team. The husband's family has owned this property for generations. This is actually about 20 minutes from Hallstatt. I don't love any of the hotels in Hallstatt, although I know most Americans think this is like some fairy tale village and they must go. But it is very busy in the morning with Chinese bus tours, although not now because there are no tourists. But the Chinese love this city so much, they replicated it in China. And their tours come early in the morning. They all come for pictures and then they leave. So if you base yourself outside the city, like at this place, then you can go to Hallstatt in the afternoon when it's more peaceful, and then when you get a really cool village feel. This hotel is amazing. It's just like right in the middle of the countryside. The area is called Dachstein, Dachstein. It's for hiking. They have glaciers here. You can do glacier hiking. Hallstatt is like 20 minutes away. They have a little pool. And I didn't know what to expect because when they had us stay there, they said, of course, we'll eat dinner at the hotel. And we were like, okay. It was amazing. It was just gourmet, perfectly prepared, farm to table cuisine, just a really special little place. Bottom left-hand side, Astoria Seefeld. This is the passion project of Frau Gertler, who owns the soccer. And her daughter and her husband, the Winklers, manage both soccer properties now. And this is her baby. In fact, if you go to the hotel's website, it's her picture there. This is about 30 minutes or so outside of Innsbruck, and it's up in the mountains. There's really no 5-star hotel in Innsbruck. Don't believe anything you read. So if people are okay staying outside the city, this is like a really cool mountain stay, but within 30 minutes of a real town. They have a giant spa. They have multiple pools. In fact, this pool you see kind of in the back is like a pool with a rock bottom. It looks like a pond. And they have a really nice MAP program. So it includes breakfast and dinner at the resort. And then guests are usually out in the middle of the day. Kids are okay here. Pets are okay here. Beautiful traditional rooms or a choice of contemporary rooms. So if you have guests that want to stay in a traditional hotel but don't want to be in a super traditional room, this is nice because there are 2 in every room category, traditional or contemporary. And then bottom right, Stangelwirt, I have to mention this. So if you have people that have looked at Schloss Elmau and maybe there wasn't enough to do for them, or the prices were too high, or they just didn't love the size of the hotel, this is like a Schloss Elmau counterpart in Austria. It is an hour outside of Salzburg, and if you look at the map, it's almost midway between Salzburg and Innsbruck. So it's about an hour and a half-ish from the Munich airport. This is what they call a bio hotel, so everything here is organic. Big focus on spa, big focus on outdoor activities. They have golf. They have a driving range at the hotel, but there's access to multiple golf courses in the region. This is in Tyrol. And what they have that's very unique is the owner has his own private stable of Lipizzaners. And I have had guests that have said, can I ride the Lipizzaners? The answer from the Spanish riding school is 100% no. The answer here is yes. And they can do riding lessons like in their stable. It's a really, really gorgeous stable. Or they can do riding in the countryside. So if you have people that want to ride one of the stallions, it's absolutely possible here. So just a couple little things not to forget about. Austria, people often overlook for Jewish heritage travel. It's absolutely possible. This is a picture I took when I was at Mauthausen. That's the main concentration camp. People would visit there. It's outside of Linz, which is a stop on the river cruises. It's about 2 hours from Vienna. If you have guests that have some kind of Jewish heritage here, please let me know. I have guides that are Jewish, and I have guides that have a really cool, interesting background. Like my main Jewish guide escaped with her family and hid in Bohemia during the war and then came back. And Austria doesn't have the greatest history with how they've treated the Jews, but people that have Jewish heritage from this region, there's a lot to discover. Family travel, of course, we talked about. These are just some little pictures. You can go hiking very easily. This is Lori's daughter with the food expert in Vienna. And Lori said she had to look away because she gave her like a butcher knife to cut the apples. And she's really great with kids and it's very hands-on. Another cool thing you can do outside of Salzburg is the summer luge runs. These are like tobogganing runs in winter, and in the summer, it's almost like a little outdoor roller coaster. And what I love to do for families, like you see with Lori's daughter here in front of Schönbrunn, is schedule a flytographer session with them. It's a great way to have family pictures that are far better than what most of us could take with our phones. I definitely don't want to overlook winter travel, and hopefully people will be able to go this year. I personally love Christmas markets, and I actually think the ones in Austria are some of the best. They are all completely different, all with local artisans that have to like apply to be able to sell. The one on the right is in Vienna. These tend to be a little bit bigger. The one on the left is one of the countryside ones in St. Wolfgang. And just look how beautiful it is. Like they put stars out on the water. Did you have a question, Chris? I see.
I just wanted to ask another question that we got in
Yes.
the chat quickly before jumping too far ahead. Is it possible to do a Jewish focused tour from Linz for river cruise guests?
Absolutely. Absolutely. From Linz is not a great city if you have people and they're going to Austria and they're like, where should we stay? Linz is probably not tops on my list. It's doable as a day trip from Vienna, or if you have guests on a river cruise and they don't want to take a river cruise shore tour, here we can do some private touring. We can do private food tours here and do a private tour of Mauthausen. It's about 20 minutes or so outside of Linz, and the tour itself, really it's kind of paced to be what the clients want it to be, but I think most of our guests spend 2-ish hours, could be 3 sometimes, at Mauthausen. Mauthausen wasn't an extermination camp. Of course, people died and it was brutal, but it was a work camp with a quarry, and there's some really crazy stories about what they did with the prisoners there and how the locals were involved, and it's really interesting to see. Sadly, I've been to a lot of concentration camps, but that's been the first one outside of Poland that I really got an insight into what happened there. So winter travel also is not just about Christmas markets. It is the ball season in Vienna. The picture below is the New Year's ball, and the one above is one of the balls that happened between the end of January and the middle of March. There are balls almost every week. I'm not sure what it will look like next year. I imagine they will limit the number of people. But that's a really interesting way to travel to Austria in winter, and then just look at the beautiful scenery. The best thing for me always about traveling in winter is no crowds. I mean, I love to go to museums without a million people. And for me, you know, seeing a season other than 95 degrees in summer is fine. And they plow the streets and clear the sidewalks, and it's a beautiful time to go to get beautiful scenery and literally no crowds. Just a reminder that we do offer self-drive programs in Austria as well as a lot of our destinations. What that means for us is we work with you to plan the day-by-day itinerary of the clients. This includes usually the countryside hotels, guides, usually in less quantity than we would do in a typical city-based tour, because often self-drive guests are a bit more self-sufficient, but guides strategically where it makes sense. You can handle the rental car or we can, it doesn't matter to us. And then their final documents come with a pre-programmed Garmin GPS they take with them, plug it in their car, and they're ready to go. So they don't have the stress of trying to load a GPS map in a foreign language, and hopefully less yelling between husbands and wives as they drive on the roads. It is a very humane driving situation because Austria has no superhighways. So it's mostly 2 or 4 lane roads, and they all have speed limits. And as always, they have 24-hour access to our staff on the ground. We have had people call that were lost, and we've talked them through it. So there's that extra layer of security of having someone on the ground. This is our Central Europe team. That's Ben. He's one of our operations assistants. Me, that's Lori. And on the right-hand side is Michelle. We handle most of the bookings for Austria. We've all been all over, and we can answer really any questions you have. And then this December, who knew the world was going to end, we took our entire staff to Poland. So that's all of us in Krakow this last December. So that's all I have to talk about. But I'd love to answer lots of questions.